Deiveson Figueiredo versus Joseph Benavidez 2. The rematch is set to take place in the main event of UFC Fight Night. Figueiredo versus Benavidez 2 on Fight Island this weekend. I can't wait for this matchup. You got the vacant world title on the line. The Flyweight World Championship up for grabs yet again after the first fight. Deiveson Figueiredo in their first encounter where he won by KO in the second round decided to be very helpful by missing weight for that bout. So now we're going to have to do this again and try and get the belt around one of these guys' waists. I feel like the belt is going to end up around the waist of Deiveson Figueiredo, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't see how this fight goes any differently to the first one. And that's really confused me here. I don't understand the angle that the UFC are pushing. I understand they have to try and sell a fight, and this rematch, in my opinion, didn't make too much sense. But, you know, they did it again. They're really helping out Joseph Benavidez here at the end of his career. I just don't seem to understand why the UFC are being so helpful to Joseph Benavidez. If he wins the belt, I don't see him defending it against contenders. I could see Joseph Benavidez maybe looking for a quick cash grab at bantamweight for a super fight, or just retiring immediately because he's got what he finally wanted throughout his entire career. I don't know why the UFC wants that to happen. I don't know why they're pushing for him to get a rematch. He got KO'd in the second round, but I understand that Deiveson Figueiredo missed weight, which means he can't win the belt, which is really, really annoying. We've made the fight again. I'm actually kind of glad that we've made the fight again because we get the same amount of promotion again for a fight again that we already know the outcome of. I feel like Figueiredo's going to KO Benavidez in the early second round. I don't know what this promo is. I understand the promo, they've got to try and sell a fight, but I've seen a lot of guys. I watched fighters predict Figueiredo versus Benavidez too. All of them are so biased towards Benavidez, obviously, because they all know him. Obviously, he's around the guys. He's one of the guys in the MMA circle. I'm sure he has a lot of friends at different camps in the UFC world. I just feel as though they're all being quite biased on how they saw the first fight going down. They act like it was all Benavidez until the headbutt. And then Figueiredo just fluked it after the headbutt and came in with a big right hand and got the KO while Benavidez was already concussed. That's not how the fight went whatsoever. They were fighting. They were both landing shots. In my opinion, Benavidez was landing more of the shots. Figueiredo was definitely landing the harder shots throughout the fight. He was digging to the body very well in their first fight, and that's what eventually opened up the headshot that he finally finished Benavidez with in the second round. I just don't know why people seem to think that Benavidez was completely annihilating Figueiredo until the headbutt. That just wasn't the case whatsoever. Figueiredo even got a takedown in the first round. Even though Benavidez outstruck him in that first round, I mean, who was in more danger of getting finished? Benavidez almost got his arm ripped off. When I predicted this first fight, I thought Benavidez was going to win. I don't think I can predict Benavidez to win again, knowing what we saw in the first fight. I thought Benavidez was going to win because his grappling was going to be better than Deiveson Figueiredo. What did the first fight show me? Figueiredo's grappling's better than Joseph Benavidez, put him in an armbar immediately, took him down in the first round as well, had no problems defending takedowns from Benavidez either. I thought Benavidez was going to out-grapple him. Duly noted, Benavidez cannot out-grapple Deiveson Figueiredo, so that's one chance from Benavidez gone. Not to mention that this rematch, the only thing that has changed between the pair of them is that Benavidez is now coming off one extra TKO loss in his career. A really bad KO loss as well. And you shouldn't be getting KO'd whatsoever in the flyweight division. But Benavidez, it's happened a few times now. I remember one against Demetrius Johnson very clearly. He's been rocked and dropped in many fights as well against Sergio Pettis. He was dropped and slumped in the first round. Against Henry Cejudo, he had moments where he was rocked as well. He's had some really bad moments in there, and he's been around for a very long time. He's had a very extensive career. Also got KO'd by Figueiredo in their last fight as well. So in my opinion, we're about to watch the exact same fight, but this time Joseph Benavidez coming off a TKO loss. Really bad one towards the end of his career against a big KO artist in Deiveson Figueiredo that seems to be getting better and better every single time we see him go out there. I feel like I would be foolish not to pick Deiveson Figueiredo this time. He proved me wrong, even though he missed weight by a little bit. I understand that. His weight was not a factor in that fight. Fair enough if Deiveson Figueiredo missed weight, went out there and just threw Joseph Benavidez around, slammed him on his head, picked him up, out-muscled him, held him against the cage the entire time. Maybe I would consider some things. Figueiredo has that KO power regardless if he misses weight by 2 pounds or not. If Joseph Benavidez goes out there swinging for the fences like he did in the first fight, moving his head first before his punches and just leaning over everything he's doing, actually with a really bad game plan and strategy in that first fight, he's going to get knocked out again really badly. And I don't like this narrative that, the headbutt led to the finish. In my opinion, I picked Benavidez in that fight, but I said this during the fight while I was watching it on my Fight Companion, I believe. It feels like something's about to happen. When Figueiredo is fighting someone, I can watch them outstrike him for a very long time. I watched Alejandro Pantoja outstrike Deiveson Figueiredo in certain moments of their fight, but you just get the feeling that the Jaws music is playing and Figueiredo eventually is going to land a big shot that's going to earn himself a round or earn himself a really big highlight reel KO finish. That's what we saw in the first fight. I actually feel that the rematch happening is going to benefit the flyweight division because as much as I said it was going to hold up the division the first time they announced it was happening again, we still don't have a clear number one contender. I mean, a closest thing to it is Brandon Moreno, and even he could maybe take on Alex Perez in the meantime, and the winner of that could probably get a title shot, but still, we don't have a clear-cut contender, so this really hasn't held up the division too much whatsoever. I think it would help Brandon Moreno to get one more win under his belt before he fights for the title, not to mention he was on the headliner of the prelims of a fight night card. So I don't know how they're planning on building up any hype for him to fight for a title if no one's going to see him fight, but he was the headliner of the prelims. Makes no sense. If you're in a title elimination bout, I almost feel as though it should be mandatory for you to be a main or co-main event. Brandon Moreno's still one fight away from a title shot. We've got time. He needs to sign a fight soon, I would reckon, against Alex Perez. That would make the most sense in the world. We've got Alejandro Pantoja versus Askar Askarov happening on the same card. That's another great flyweight fight to make. Kai Kara France could maybe take on Brandon Royval. That would be another great fight to make. And then the winners of Royval versus France could maybe take on the winners of Alejandro Pantoja versus Askar Askarov. That would make elite levels of sense. The winner of Perez versus Moreno gets the title shot. I feel like we've got a clear path to how we can generate interest in this flyweight division. I just feel as though it's going to start with Figueiredo brutally KOing Joseph Benavidez because we are watching the exact same fight happen. I understand that people are going to be making some technical changes in their game plan. I'm sure Joseph Benavidez is going to be a little bit more cautious, but I think that's just going to give Deiveson Figueiredo more time and space to figure him out. I feel like you almost have to smother Figueiredo and take advantage of the fact that he's going to take those shots early. Like when you're fighting a guy like Calvin Kattar. Make the most out of the time that he's analysing you and make sure you win those rounds and deal enough damage in those rounds to make sure that he can't get off later in the fight. But Joseph Benavidez tried that in the first fight and Figueiredo just ate everything Benavidez had. Didn't have any problem with the shots whatsoever. I mean, Joseph Benavidez was landing some big shots and Figueiredo just ate every single one of them like they were nothing. I mean, his chin's kind of ridiculous for the flyweight division. It almost feels like he has an unfair advantage over every other flyweight because he hits like a bantamweight. He has a great chin as well in the division, even though he cuts a whole bunch of weight. He's the bigger guy in there. He showed in the first fight. As soon as he got to the ground with Benavidez, he was ready to whip up an armbar in that first round. Almost finished Benavidez with that armbar in the first round. Then escaped and made it back to his feet. I just don't see a way that Benavidez is going to get out of this one without taking another TKO loss. I just don't see it happening. I really don't. And I'm confused as to why the UFC wants this so bad, to make a rematch for Benavidez, because he could just walk away from the division, leave the title vacant once again, and ruin the flyweight division completely. So I don't know why they would take this gamble, but then I thought to myself, hang on a second, maybe I do know why they would take this gamble, because if Joseph Benavidez wins the belt, they, by proxy of records, have a champion of the flyweight division that was better than the one who vacated the belt in the first place. That's a really big deal, because if a guy vacates the belt in a division and some new guy just comes and takes the belt, that guy is going to now be living in the shadow of the guy who vacated the belt. You saw that with Whittaker versus GSP. Not Whittaker versus GSP, but with Whittaker and GSP. GSP vacated the belt, Whittaker became champion, the real champion, but no one really credited him as such, and it kind of took away from Whittaker a little bit because we never got to see him take the belt from the champion who had the belt in the first place. It kind of messes up divisions, but if you can have a guy who's beaten Henry Cejudo in Joseph Benavidez, as close as that fight was, Joseph Benavidez has a win over Henry Cejudo. If you can have him claim the belt, or get him knocked out twice with no controversy over headbutt or weight cut problems, then you can clarify that we now have a champion better than the one before, just by the narrative. I mean, that might not be true. I reckon Henry Cejudo would probably beat Joseph Benavidez in a rematch, but who knows? Him coming back down to flyweight might not be such a good idea, but still, that's what people will perceive, because people just look at records and wins and losses, and they don't look at who's improved more between each fight. But still, that would be really good for the division. If Figueiredo goes out there and KOs Benavidez, I think that would be the best case scenario. I think that's exactly what's going to happen as well, because if people think that the headbutt's the only reason that Benavidez lost, that's not the case whatsoever. In fact, I'm surprised there wasn't more and more headbutts. And you know what? Even though there was a headbutt in the first fight, that's now scar tissue on his head. For that head-first style of his that he came in with in the first fight with Figueiredo, that head-first style of him clashing his head off of Figueiredo's, he now has a brand new scar of scar tissue right across his eyebrow that he's cut open last time, that fucking threw up blood everywhere out of his brain cavity. That's going to be there this time as well. It just seems like the only things that have changed since the first fight and the last one is that Figueiredo might have gotten better because he's the guy who's improving here. Benavidez got a little bit older. Benavidez started having weird thoughts in his head, which I don't like the sound of, that I saw the articles for. Benavidez is coming off a TKO loss. His chin's weaker now. He's got more scar tissue on his face. I just don't see it going too well for him. I think Figueiredo's going to come in there, make weight, destroy Joseph Benavidez. I think there's going to be some entertaining moments where Benavidez lands a couple punches. I'm just not willing to bet after watching that first fight that something different happens. Benavidez didn't want the grappling with Figueiredo. That's what we saw. I thought that was how Benavidez was going to beat him in the first place. That's why I picked Benavidez. Because I saw Formiga out-grapple Deiveson Figueiredo. And I thought, hey, I've seen Benavidez do that kind of shit to Formiga, so maybe he's going to do it to Figueiredo twice as bad. That's the only reason I picked him to win. If he can't out-grapple Figueiredo and gets put in an armbar immediately and almost gets inverted triangled in the first round as well, if you remember that fight. Crazy shit Figueiredo was doing to him in the grappling situation. You're going to be on the feet with Figueiredo? That's a problem to me. Especially when you're coming off a KO loss now. I think Figueiredo goes out there and obliterates Benavidez in the second round. Then I want to see Joseph Figueiredo. Deiveson Figueiredo take on the winner of Brandon Moreno versus Alex Perez, which in my opinion should be the co-main event of a great fight night, or maybe even the headliner of the prelims of a pay-per-view. Who knows? Let's build some hype in this flyweight division. We've got Kai Kara-France, Askar Askarov, Alejandro Pantoja. We've got a bunch of guys. Matt Schnell. Tim Elliott just re-announced himself in the division with a big co-main event win in the card just gone against Ryan Benoit. I can't remember his first name. I think it's Ryan. Is it Ryan? I've messed up the video at the end, but still, it might be Ryan Benoit. We've got David Dvorak, another guy in the division. Brandon Royval, a new guy in the division as well. Entertaining guy. Jordan Espinoza just came back with a win against Mark De La Rosa. We've got some guys. Howley and Paver just got a robbed decision win against Zalgas and Magulov. Decent guys in the flyweight division right now. Rodrigo Bontorin is taking on Manuel Cape, a newcomer to the division. Let's just build the ranks of the flyweights and finally have an entertaining division. And just please, Figueiredo, as I prayed for Masvidal, please make weight against Benavidez. Let's just get a belt around one of your two's waists, because we need to move on. We can't do a trilogy, you know? Figueiredo by second round TKO. First part of the second round rather than later on. Gets it done. The body shot is there for him all day as well. He's going to be ripping to that body because Benavidez, you know, he was so scared of the headshots from Figueiredo, he kept raising his hands every single time Figueiredo looked like he was about to punch anyway. So he's just going to rip it to the body instead, like he saw in the first fight. But now he's going to do it from the get-go, rather than having to figure it out in the middle of the fight. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Click that button there. Goodbye.